Welcome to my podcast story, the show where podcasters share the real journey behind their voices, from their first mic check to their biggest milestones. Every episode reveals the lessons, challenges, and breakthrough that shape a podcast star's journey. I'm your host, Wisdom Okonkwo, and I can't wait for you to hear today's story. Tell us your name and what you do.
Sure. So I'm Nicola Beer, and I'm a relationship and trauma-informed expert. Helps people to heal relationship wounds, betrayal trauma, and other anxiety, low self-esteem, other sort of things that affects people. And I got started in this because of my own childhood. So growing up,
Excuse me,
my
you said
mum
relationship and trauma or relationship and tumor.
trauma,
Okay.
trauma.
I get it.
Yeah.
Because I was trying to connect where does tumor and relationship come together?
Yeah, trauma. So
Okay.
people that have gone through it.
Yeah.
See, the people often think of trauma as big things that happen to them, but actually, a lot of us have trauma from our childhood, because trauma is when a child feels overwhelmed with emotions that they can't express. They don't know how to express it. So most children will go through some events where something happens and they don't know how to cope with all the emotions that they're
Yeah.
having and the experience, and then it gets trapped in the body. So yeah, helping people to clear that, because trauma from early on in our life ends up really affecting our adult life, our adult relationships, and that's what happened to me. Growing up, my mum was not very well, so she had a lot of depression, anxiety, and stress. So she was aggressive a lot, and she was emotionally unstable. Sometimes she would be laying in bed all day. Other times she'd be screaming, shouting, hitting me and my brother and two sisters. So it was really difficult, and I got a lot of wrong messages from that. I believed that I was not good enough, that I wasn't
Yeah.
lovable, that I need to work hard to give, to be loved. You have to earn
Yeah.
love. And so from that, I had a lot of relationship problems in my teens, in my 20s, and that's when I decided to specialize in relationships, because it was an area that I thought I'm not very good in. I get stuck in
Yeah.
these patterns. I'm attracted to people that don't treat me very nice, people that are nice, I'm not attracted to. When I get into a relationship, I find all the reasons that it's wrong, that it's bad, that I'm not safe. So I really had to do a lot of healing to have a good relationship, first of all with myself, and then with a partner.
Yeah. So it was more like where someone has uh it's basically like every entrepreneur and every they have a problem, they find a solution to that problem and say, yeah, I could help other people to deal with this too, right? I'm not the only one with the problem. And so they eventually start a business out of it, or become whatever the scenario might be. Yeah. And so having to be a relationship trauma expert for someone who has actually gone through relationship trauma, right? I mean, there are little forms, but for someone who actually went through, big time, right? Series of
Mm,
relationships affected because of it. So when you're talking to people, right, that are going through, your clients, it's, there's this, like, how do I put it? There's this relatability that comes in when you're talking to them rather than, oh, a
sure.
textbook definition of, oh, yeah, this is it. I'm like, yeah, she doesn't even know what
Yeah.
I'm talking about. What's
Yeah.
the name of your podcast?
It's called the Relationship Revival Podcast,
Wow,
and I
such a creative
started it
name.
I started it in 2017, but it was called
Wow.
something else. Then it was called Save Your Marriage. It was purely focused on saving your marriage. And then I've kind of evolved and changed it. And I mean, I've really grown with it. If you listen to the first episodes, which now I've deleted some of those,
Why did you
um,
delete it?
because it just
Oh,
doesn't sound like me. Because, in those 7 years,
oh.
8 years, I've changed and evolved so much.
Yeah, that's the constant in life. Change is the only
Mm,
thing that's constant.
mm,
And that's
yeah,
that's lady of 2017, 2018 is the lady that gave birth to this lady. So we have to be grateful for her.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah. So, and when I listen to them, I cringe because then my podcast style was more giving advice, but more it sound to me, it sounded like I'm telling people, "Oh, this is you try this, try that," and then I just thought, no, that it seemed to lack the empathy that I have for people, the understanding, the compassion, the trauma, and because I was focused. All my training had been on relationships
Yeah,
and counseling, and I hadn't had the trauma therapy training. And then when I brought that in and really learning about the importance of self-compassion, self-empathy, being really kind to yourself as you're learning why you develop these patterns, why you have these habits, why don't you feel good enough, why do
yeah,
you have these addictions? And so I changed. And when you listen to them, it sounds like, yeah, a completely different person. So which is a good
yeah,
thing, I think, evolving. But
yeah,
I really love doing podcasts. I find them I think it's to me, it just really lifts me up to be able to talk about really deep topics, deep and meaningful topics. I'm an introvert, so I love deep conversations. I'm not really into small talk.
yeah.
So it's
Yeah,
a
wow,
real
you've
nice
been doing the
vehicle.
podcast for 8 years now. You're an OG podcaster. You've been doing the podcast for 8 years
Mhm.
now. You are an OG podcaster.
Oh, okay.
Wow, that's a long time, right? Trying to do a podcast
Mhm.
for 1 year. I mean, you know this, right? It's not easy. Let alone 2 years, 3 years, right? And then 8 years. That's a long time. I mean,
Mm.
if anything, it just shows that, you know, you're consistent, and yeah. And that means a lot to a lot of persons.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Yeah.
there were times when I went through difficult times in my life where I had to, not didn't do an episode for a few months, but then I would come
Yeah.
back and then get into the regular rhythm. But yeah,
Yeah.
now it's every week, and
The,
I prefer doing it
the way I,
more.
the way I like to see podcasting is I like to see it as a marathon, right? You know, in marathons, you can be running full energy, like from the beginning to start. You just like you
Yeah.
crash, right? And so sometimes you need to rest, but you can't like stop, but you just like slow down, and it's as if you're
Mm,
walking, but you're running, but you're just and then other times you like full speed and then sometimes you just go down. But the goal is to always still stay in the race, right? And a lot of people think podcasting is a sprint, and they're like and they
mm,
just crash and burn, and they're like, nah, podcasting is not for me. I'm not going to do it.
yeah.
Uh, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Is that the relation? Okay, it's called the relationship reviver,
Revival, yeah.
previously known as Save Your Marriage, right? But I won't say that name again, so that a lot of people don't get confused. It's
Yeah.
the relationship reviver. Uh, but let's just go back 2017, 2016. What was the
Mm.
inspiration that led you to say, okay, I'm going to start a podcast? I mean, you learned relationship and trauma, and all those things, but why a podcast? Like why
So
a
I was a
podcast?
coach and a therapist,
Okay.
and I wanted to help my clients in between sessions and give them things to learn, to listen
Oh,
to. And, what a lot of people struggle with in relationships is communication problems
yeah,
and resentment, holding on to the past, not being able to let go of, okay, you hurt me on my birthday 2 years ago, or you did this, or you said this to my parents, or, people hold on to a lot of relationship hurts and they get stuck. And so, giving them something to help them in between the sessions was I found really powerful, and it's there. And then also, of course, the benefit of that is then new people can find me as well. So for those reasons, I started it, and it just grew. Yeah, I'm very lucky
yeah.
it just
How
grew.
many episodes do you have now?
So I've done over 300. However, I think there's about 200 and something showing because I did delete some. So yeah, yeah, but over 200.
I wish I had met you before prior to now. I would have said, no, don't delete it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, because for me, I'm like how long have I even been doing podcasting? But my very first episode, I'm like, dude, how could you be so terrible? And I'm like, wow. But at the point in time when I recorded that episode, I was the best. I was in the best form, right? But now that I've been doing it for a long time, right, and I've
Mm,
improved. And I'm like, oh, I'm like, dude, why would you say that? Like, why would you be saying this? And yeah, it just goes on to show the journey that you didn't start fully, what's the word, fully figured out, right? You learned along
Yeah,
the way, and that for a lot of persons, it's inspiring. Yeah, so that's why I like to just leave mine up there. So you've been doing the podcast for 8 years. You started the
yeah,
podcast because you wanted to give your coaching clients something they could, listen to, without necessarily meeting you for a coaching session.
yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
yeah. And I find with the relationship topic, there's so many things you can talk about. I get excited every week. Oh God, I really want to talk about compulsive lying and how that affects relationship. Or,
Yeah.
cheating is an area where a lot of people are drawn to my podcast. So where they've been, what is cheating? Why do people cheat? Betrayal trauma, how to repair a relationship after you've been hurt. So there's so many topics around that, which I really like helping people with because it's a time where people are most struggling and they really need help. And
Yeah.
then there's so many other things that impact relationships, like, ADHD, low self-esteem, depression, anxiety. Everything affects romantic relationships. So there's so much to talk about. And I've got so much more in me. I wish I had time to do more than one a week, but at the moment I don't. But yeah, I really love it.
Yeah. Your ideas is showing up, and showing up consistently. Oh, I just
Mm.
noticed that you posted an episode 7 hours ago. How
Yes.
to
Yeah.
choose between your marriage and your affair. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. The podcast, you before we go into the workflow, now that
Mm.
you've been doing the podcast for 8 years, right? Before we even talk about, business wise,
Mm.
professionally, and all that, and before we even talk about the benefits of you've had from podcasting, what was the biggest challenge you faced on early on when you started the podcast?
I had a lot of problems with the actual recording equipment, which seems silly now because once you know the right equipment, it's so
Quick break. Before we continue, I'd love to invite you to join the My Podcast Story newsletter. Each week, I share highlights from our guest stories, behind the scenes podcasting tips, and resources to help you grow your own show. You can sign up at mypodcaststory.com/join. That is mypodcaststory.com/join. Now, let's get back to the episode.
good. But
Yeah.
I brought like these snowballs and they weren't really working, and I didn't even know because I didn't even know like you had to be like how close you had to be to the mic,
Yeah.
and so like I got this bad review once saying that I sound like I'm in a tin can.
Yeah, I was about get I saw the review. It's just there. I don't know how they popped it up, but it's like it's 1 star, and it's like,
Yeah, and all the others are 5-star, thankfully. But
yeah,
I just
yeah,
but I just thought actually if I'm making all of that effort creating the content and really putting my heart and energy into the episode, I really need to make sure the equipment. So that was one of the challenges. That was probably one
yeah,
of the major
uh,
challenges, yeah.
yeah. So I'm curious, right? Because now this is a 1 star review, and how did you? Because this is for me. I feel like certain times people want to give you feedback, but then they say it in a way that it's harsh, right? Right? It's for example, if let's you have a perfect setup, right? And there's a window and all that is nice, but let's say the window there was harsh sunlight coming out from the window, right? And it's just making the whole video setup, look terrible. And I wanted to say, oh yeah, Nicola, the everything is okay, but if we could maybe close the window to make sure that there is no harsh sunlight coming in, that would really help the the
Yeah.
aesthetics and the visual, right? It's
Yeah.
kind, it's nice, right? It's right. But
Yeah.
right now I'm like, oh yeah, why do you have such a terrible this such a terrible I don't even know what to say. Why do you have such a terrible the window just makes you look like and right? And
Mm.
you see right? I'm trying to say
Yeah, I
the
mean,
same thing,
I
but
don't take it
it's
personally because one, it's about the equipment, but I also don't take it personally because people that probably listening to my podcast are probably having a hard time. Their marriage is struggling, they've been cheated on, they've cheated on their
yeah,
partner, they might lose some person. So they probably also are not in a good place. So they may, it just may be the last thing that they need that day, trying to listen to a podcast and not liking the
yeah.
the sound of it. But, lots of people tell me, thankfully, that they find my voice and my podcast calming. So that's nice, So
Yeah,
I think with anything, there's some people that will like you and some people that won't, and you just have to. It's part of life, I guess, accepting that.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I think sometimes it's about, like, in the case of I love this example. In the case of sounding like the exact word is sound like how did I that person is is so descriptive, and like, you sound like in a can, like in that regards, right? Sometimes you have to like say, okay, is this true, right?
Mm. Yeah.
Right? Is this true, right? And you then get someone, so listen to the episode. How does it sound? Does it sound, right? And then he's like, yeah, that's because, how do I put it? I could tell you the truth, but I could say it's really harsh, but it doesn't change the fact that that's the truth. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Right? And I could also tell you a lie, and I could say it's really kind, right, and really sweet, but it doesn't make it the truth.
Yes.
Does that,
Yeah.
yeah, so in both regards, so sometimes you have to ask yourself, okay, is this right, and is this, and like, okay, yeah, sometimes in a scenario where, like, okay, let's say, you're broke, right, and you can afford to get a good mic, and before they even say that you sound like you sound terrible, you already know that you sound terrible, but like, oh yeah, I just have to put the message out there because this is very important, right? And so pending when I do get a good mic, I would upgrade, but for now, I know a lot of persons that would get to benefit from this message even before I get a good mic. Right, so I'm just going to put it out there the way it is. And so sometimes when people reach out to you, they're like, "Oh yeah, I sound like it," in time, you just have to tell them thank you, because even before they said it, you're already aware of it and you're working towards making it good. Does that make sense? Because I've
Yeah,
been
it
in the same
does.
shoe before, where like, "Oh yeah, you should be doing this, you should be doing this," and I'm like, "Oh yeah, thank you." Uh, okay. So far you've been doing the podcast, right? Before we get into you the podcast you're doing, it's directly connected to your business and what you do professionally, right? But before we get into the professional aspect of the podcast, what has been some of the benefits you've had doing this podcast for 8 years personally?
So it's really driven so much of my business. So I'm very, very thankful for that. I work with people all over the world, from Singapore, Africa, America, other parts of Asia, the UK, Australia. So I'm able to help people from all around the world. And that's really, really interesting as well. And it's a great revenue stream for me, being able to support people from all over the world. And I'd say that's, well, a great benefit. And another benefit is that for me, it keeps me interested, engaged, growing, because I, help a lot of these people, and then I get lots of insights and wisdom and think, okay, this is the second person that's struggling with this, and they have these thoughts and these pain points, and this is how I've helped them. This will make a great episode. So I also find it it's really contributed to my growth, and I find it something that I just love to do. So it's a
Yeah.
really good personal benefit for me as well. Now I have over 40,000 downloads an episode, so
Wow.
it's really just been growing and growing, and yeah, it's been a good journey. And recently I really decided to focus on it, and that's when I got much better equipment. Really asked my audience what topics would they really like, what's really important to them. And since then it's just had another, because it was at 30,000 for a while, and now it's just shot up to 10, another 10,000 to 40,000. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's good when you're really giving value, and you're really giving the listeners the content that they really want.
Yeah. Well, um, I have a lot of questions. Okay.
Sure.
The before we started the interview, you mentioned that you're in Thailand, and then you're in Dubai, and depending on the season, you move from, right? Do you go with equipment every time you move, or do you have one for Thailand, one for Dubai?
So because the podcast stands are so heavy, and it'll take up a lot of your,
Yeah.
shoes and clothes allowance flying. I have one in both places. Yeah, I
Oh,
have a
okay.
podcast mic now in both
Is it the
places.
same mic or a different
Yes, yeah,
different?
yeah. It's the same mic, Rode mic. Yeah.
Oh, okay, okay. Wow. You mentioned you asked your audience what they wanted. How did you do that? Was it through survey, Instagram, email? What was the medium you used to ask them?
So I have over the years built sort of a 10,000 email
Oh, that's a
list
lot.
of people, and a lot of them do come from the podcast as well. So I asked them, what kind of topics would be really important. I have now upgraded to a platform where it does a survey for you, and it creates it like its own survey. So I will be doing that again in the future, but
Well,
for
what's the
that
platform called?
time. Yeah, for that time I did that. And then when I'm speaking to clients as well, I'll note down, what questions they ask me, what they're struggling with,
Yeah.
and
Uh,
just sort of
I
see, yeah.
I did ask a question. You didn't get me. I said, what's the platform? You said you upgraded to a platform. What's the platform called?
Oh, okay. So I'm using Podpage. So it's like a podcast website, and you can create it in literally 5-10 minutes,
Yeah,
and
that's the
it's really good for search engine optimization, SEO. And so on there they have lots of different features, and one of the features is they create like the survey for you and a link, and people can
yeah.
go and do the survey. Yeah. Yeah, it's a
Yeah,
really
it's
good tool.
it's it's a really good tool. Like it's actually good. But it's it's good. It's a very nice tool. But it's just that when I saw the tool, I was like, before I even signed up, they created a sample podcast website for me. I was like, wow.
Mm.
But I'm like, nah, $29 per month, that's a lot for me. I'm like, nah,
Yeah.
nah, nah, nah. Let's calm down. When we start making money from the podcast, we can do that. But for now, let's relax. But the tool actually does what it promises and it crushes it. So
Mm.
yeah, just for
Yeah.
those that are wondering if they want to get a website, yeah. They didn't even take up to 5 minutes. I had my website up and ready, but I just didn't launch it. Okay.
Yeah, well, like you can obviously do it on WordPress, but I have someone that manages my business website, and I'm just, scared that the plugins will get be out
Yeah,
of
so
date, and then it will
many
crash the website, and then
bloated. Yeah.
so I just thought keep it separate, have a separate just, podcast website.
Yeah, yeah, it makes sense, and it's compared to a general purpose tool, right? Like WordPress, which you can use for anything, right?
Mm.
Podpage is specifically designed for podcasts, so everything, all the specific little minute details you might think you need, right? It's on Podpage, and so yeah, I feel like Podpage should come sponsor this show, yeah, because we're talking about them. Okay,
Mm.
you've talked about the benefits you've had for the podcast, right? And what does your workflow look like currently, right? I want to look at I want to look at the behind the scenes, the tools, the apps you use for your podcast, how you start from an idea to publishing the episode.
So I start from an idea, and then I start writing just random sort of bullet points and notes about the topic. I remember some case studies of clients. I change their names and their identifying, you know, profiles so that people can't connect it to them. And I prepare lots of notes, and then I read through the notes a few times, and then I record it, and then I upload it. And now, for ages, I was using a different platform, but recently I started using Captivate,
Oh, okay.
and that then I upload it to Captivate, add the graphic, and away you go. Yeah.
I want us to step back
That's
a
all.
bit, right? You mentioned you record it. What do you use for recording?
Oh, I use Audacity, the free Audacity. So I use this
Okay.
Rode Pod mic. I use Audacity, which is free, and record it that way. And then I edit it myself. So I just go through and cut out the spaces, or if there's any kind of so what I do now, which I find really efficient, which was what I didn't do before. What I would do before is I would record, and then I'd make a mistake, I'd leave a gap, and then I'd have to go back and cut out all these bits.
Yeah, yeah,
But now if I make a mistake, I delete it straight away. I re-record that bit again, so that when I go to edit the track, I'm just editing out spaces. I don't have to listen to it and edit out any, errors or
yeah.
mistakes, or
Because listening
there's no
does take
repeating.
time. Because you have to like
Yeah.
listen for the amount of the length of the episode. If it's 20 minutes, sometimes you have to listen to 2x or 3x of that time,
Yeah.
and that adds up. Yeah, yeah. I like that. So the fact I just mentioned Audacity, it gets me to
Mm.
start asking. Your show is audio only.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a good thing your show. I won't. It's okay. It's not like okay. It's not a bad thing. It's not a good thing that your show is audio only. But it's a good thing that you are a podcast host that has an audio only show that has a lot of listeners? Because you mentioned earlier on that your show now is at 40,000 downloads per episode, or is
per
that per episode?
episode, yeah, per
Wow.
episode, yeah.
Wow. I
So for me, if it was video, I wouldn't get hardly any done because it's an extra barrier for me to have my face out there
yeah,
to think,
there's
okay, do I look
friction.
okay? And there's certain energy levels, and so I have an energy level for talking where I feel like I can just be free when I'm doing it. No one's looking at
Yeah,
my facial
yeah, just
expressions,
doing.
and I don't need to have my hair or anything done. But so if I started to do the video, I'd probably do one a month. Whereas I knew, I don't want to do that. I want to be able to do a podcast every week, and I like doing it so much. I started another podcast a month ago as well. So now I've got two. So I've got
What's
doing two
what's
episodes on each
what
one.
what's the name of that one?
Healing with psychedelics.
Oh, okay. Healing with psychedelics. They're all connected to I was thinking maybe it was something like, a very far length from
Mm.
what you've been talking about. But this one it's okay. It's about helping people heal from the trauma, right?
Yeah, so it's still healing, but it's using plant medicine, so mushrooms or
Oh,
ayahuasca,
okay.
and some people are into that and some people aren't. So I felt it was best
Just
to
have a show for
separate
that.
it.
Yeah, yeah. Makes sense. Yeah. Wow. Okay. So you you currently, well, like, how much would you say you spend just to run the podcast?
I would say one episode in total probably takes me 7 hours.
7. Wow. That's
Mm,
that's a long.
mm.
Okay, that's a
From
that's
from all my podcasts are about they're solo podcasts. And they're all solo podcasts in my relationship revival. And the other one, I will start having guests in the psychedelic one and maybe start having guests in the relationship one. So they're about 30 minutes to an hour long. So I really prepare what I'm going to say because I don't like podcasts where just because I'm a very fast person, I have ADHD. So I'm like, go, go, go. And if a podcast is like, and too slow, I think when you're listening to a conversation, it doesn't matter but
yeah,
when you're listening to learn something and it's just an individual person,
yeah,
you
yeah,
want to get like, right, what's the point? What's the learning? What's
yeah. The
this? What do
next
I
thing, the
do?
next thing, the next thing, next thing.
So yeah, and then so it probably takes me about 3-4 hours to prepare it, and then or yeah, 3 hours to prepare it, 3 hours to record it, 1 hour to edit it, upload it, do that what anything else around it to make it ready.
Yeah. For the podcast, the relationship reviver.
Mm,
Is there a special reason why you decide to just? Because I've noticed now it's just solo episodes all throughout the eight
mm,
years. The 8 years,
yeah.
wow. Is there like a special reason? Like, oh, this is why I said, oh, I'm not going to do interviews, or it just happened to be, well, it was just easier, and that's what I did.
So it's just because I really want to help people with like an in-depth message. I want them to have tools and tips, and I just felt like I know that I know this topic and I really want to help people with this topic. So I'm going to just go ahead and do this. So I think that's part of the reason it's like easier. And I really want them to be full of content. Of course, there's so many other great experts out there. And also like just the organization and the time. It's easier if you're just managing yourself and you're like, right, I'm ready to go. This is what I'm going to do.
Yeah, no back
Whereas
and
like
forth.
scheduling back and forward and then people
Yeah,
maybe can't make it or they, you know,
yeah,
so yeah.
yeah. Wow. Okay. Spend about 7 hours per episode, and you do your editing yourself, and you just show up because it's I your story is really unique and peculiar. Because it addresses a lot of myths people have when they want to start a podcast. They're like, "Oh yeah, I want to start a podcast. I don't have guests," and I'm like, "You don't have to do interviews. You can do solo episodes. Who says you have to interview
Mm,
people, right?" They're like, "Well, everybody's doing interview." I'm like, "No, you're not everybody, right? It's your show.
mm.
You decide what you want to do." And so the fact that you have an audio only podcast, you do just solo episodes, no guests, and yet you're still reaching a lot of persons. And you're reaching 40,000 downloads, right? I just want to know because I'm not sure. Is that per episode or is that like in a month?
Per episode.
What, 40,000 dollars per episode? I'm quite sure that if you were to do coaching, well, I don't know how your coaching works, but you before you get to 40,000. persons, that'd be a lot. That'd be a
Yeah,
lot.
great.
Right. So now you can multiply yourself, right? And people can listen to you. Whereas if you're doing one-on-one coaching, probably in a year, I don't know how many coaches, but just I'm just trying to look at the amount of time that's physically possible for you to. Let's say if you
Mm,
charge 1 hour, you coach for 1 hour, and you have to sleep, do other things, and so probably in a day maybe 5, 10 coaching, right? And then
yeah.
in a month, like that's maybe if you go too much, maybe 100. But now you're reaching 40,000 persons, and you're sending them the message, and that means a lot.
Yeah, it's great, and not not everybody can afford to have one-to-one
Yeah,
counselling and coaching and therapy, so they can still get a lot of benefits from listening. There's a lot of tools. I always like to make sure that people have practical tools and solutions that they can go away with. So yeah.
yeah. One of the key things I noticed about your podcast is I get a lot of downloads, and so I'm curious. How did I know? Apart from the fact that your podcast has been around for 8 years, and you've been showing up for those 8 years, right? Uh, how did you? What would you say is like the things you would say? Oh, this is what helped me grow from zero to 40,000 downloads.
So I think it really is, at the beginning, probably what really helped me was the title of my podcast. So
Oh,
before, the title of the podcast was How to Save Your Marriage. So, and now it's broader because I cover relationships, and I also cover helping people through breakups and helping people, all different things. But then I think it did well right from the beginning because people are searching Save Your Marriage, marriage
wow,
help, marriage
genius!
podcasts. So
Oh,
that was a good start, and that's why it got quite popular. Um, Effectively because of the search within, not only within the podcast platforms, but also then I'd put that on my website, and that name, that title was sort of all linked to the podcast. So that gave me a good start. And then I just continued, and then I had some periods where I was going through a lot, or I was so busy with work that I just couldn't fit 7 hours a week in. I couldn't even fit probably I was just so busy with clients.
yeah,
Um, so during those times, maybe it went off a bit, and then when I realized, okay, I need to, well, when I really wanted to focus on it again, just picking topics that I know are really popular, because there was a phrase where I picked topics that I was really interested in, and they were slightly off the relationship topic. They were still connected in some way. And then, like, I went a lot into childhood trauma, and a few episodes on that and how it affects relationships is great. But I probably was like talking about it for too many episodes, and I think I lost a few people then. And so then I was like, right, no, people are here because their relationships in trouble. Just focus on what the people that are
yeah.
listening
What they
want.
want,
And
yeah,
then since then, it's just had another sort of real big growth. Yeah.
yeah. Wow, it's wow. That's okay. Okay. I'm trying to extrapolate what you just
Mm.
said, and kind of what I've learned so far, and that is the whatever the products you might be offering in this context podcast. People are actively searching for that specific kind of podcast in the world, right? Via whether the Apple, Spotify, Google, or whatever the search engine might be. And so, as much as we want to get in front of new persons, why don't we just get in front of people that are actually looking for, oh, I want a podcast that will help me save my marriage, right? And rather than, that person, they already know what they want, rather than you trying to convince someone. So yeah, this is a podcast that talks about save your marriage. It's nice. It's a good podcast. You should listen to the podcast, right? And I'm really, really glad that you got to leverage that. And here we are
Mm.
now, 40,000 downloads, and you're crushing it. And the sweet thing about having 40,000 downloads is that if your podcast, which of course your podcast is valuable, even without listening on or going through the content of your podcast, I know that because if your podcast is not valuable, even if you get 40,000 downloads this week, by the next week it will go down to 500 because I'm like, oh no, I can't believe they recommended this podcast. That was terrible, right? And so one of the good things to know that a podcast is good is the fact that your listeners they stick around, right? Your return listeners,
Mm.
right? And so if they listen to the podcast and the podcast is really good, what will happen is that the word of mouth, if one person recommends your podcast to one person, right? That's an
Mm,
extra, I don't know the math, but that would be like, that will multiply. And so, the growth increases and the growth increases. Wow. Very
yeah.
simple. I need to leverage that. I need to leverage that. Yeah,
Yeah, I
that's
think,
true.
the right title, because I did also launch one at the because I was gonna change that, and I did one called Love Talk or something, and that one I don't get anyone. So the
Yeah.
name, the title, especially when you start out, because you can change the name later, but you really need to make sure it's something that people will
Yeah.
easily find
Yeah.
and know what it's about.
Was that something you intentionally did with the second podcast, or is it just me that is seeing the pattern? Healing with psychedelics.
So healing with psychedelics again, and you got
That's
the
very
psychedelics
intentional.
name, and
Yeah,
it's
that's
about
very
the
intentional
healing.
with
Yeah.
psychedelics. Was like, did you just like, oh yeah, I need to think of a name that people will search for? We're like, oh, or
Yeah.
was it a name you came up with and it happened to be a name that people were searching for?
It was the first name I came up with that I really liked. Then I looked at some different other ones, and then I just thought, no, this is it, because I knew it had to have the word psychedelics in, and I wanted it to be people to know that it's not just psychedelics; it's about healing with it,
Yeah,
so that people can understand. Okay, it's talking about the benefits of how you can heal yourself, your life, your relationships. So yeah.
yeah,
I'd
okay,
also say it's just so important to find, topics that you're passionate about, because I think it really comes across in people's voices if they're interested in the topic, or if they're just talking about something that they feel that they need to or they have to. I think that
yeah,
makes a
yeah.
difference.
I noticed. Okay, I noticed you said when I asked you about the growth of the podcast, you mentioned in this case we just call it it's what the technical people call SEO, search engine optimization.
Mm,
Basically, it's like writing a book, right? Instead of if you're going to write a book about how to save your marriage, you're not going to call it you could call it the blueprint, right? But I'm like,
mm,
I see that book on the shelf and I'm actively looking for a book on how to save marriage. I'm like, yeah, the blueprint. I'm like, yeah, no, no, no. But
mm.
versus like how to save your marriage in 24 steps, right? It's way different, right? And so you said that that's like the major growth um strategy. Well, I'm curious, how did you know that, oh, this is how my podcast grew, right? How are we so sure that this is it? It could be something else, right?
It could be something else. I just believe it was that because it started growing quite quickly, and so that's what I put it down to, because people are searching for that. And when I tried the other one, it didn't work at all. So I thought, well, this love talk, it's getting no one. Calling it How to Save Your Marriage, this one's got really far. So
Yeah, that's
yeah.
that's true. There's other things I notice people. I mean, your podcast is already okay. Yeah, I noticed one. You went a step further. You added relationship, right? Okay, I feel like I should share my screen. Yeah, for those who are on YouTube so they can see. Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll just read everything I say so that those that can't see my screen they can hear what I'm talking about. Okay. Um, in the podcast on Apple Podcast, it's called the relation. The name of the podcast is the Relationship Reviver, and you went ahead and you put this colon expert advice on relationships, marriage, dating, and so these are keywords: relationship,
Yes,
marriage,
exactly.
dating, and then relationship. Right? I feel okay. Yeah, this is perfect. I should implement most of this you've said so far, and then in the description, it's there. It's sprinkled in the Relationship Revival podcast and all that, right? And I see some persons they go an extra step further. And I can't remember the perfect example I would have shown it to you. You see this your name here, Nicola Beer, right?
Mm,
They would then go on and add something. The example I saw was the lady she added podcast strategist.
okay.
Yeah, so you after you put Nicolas Beer, you then, I think in
Mm,
brackets or something like that, you then see something like relationship expert, depending on the
okay.
context.
Yeah.
And so in the name, the this and all the indicators will just show that, oh, it's relationship. And so whichever people search for, um
Mm,
it will
yeah.
pop up. But I feel like this part, like each of these parts has this, what's the word, importance, right? Having a keyword in the description of an episode is not as
Yeah.
strong as having a keyword in the show
Exactly.
name. Yeah, right. And
Exactly.
so
Yeah.
all across in the episodes you use them in your titles, right? Wow. Okay. The descriptions are straight to the point, and yeah. Wow. You're crushing it. I should double down on that. The thing is, it's a, over the time growth, but yeah, it works. Wow, thank you for sharing that with me. Yeah. Okay. You earlier on you mentioned that the podcast has really helped the business, right? And
Mm.
for me, I'm curious because podcast isn't exactly, it has data, but it's not as robust as other forms of media, right? In terms of the data you can get and know. Um, how do you know that the clients, in your own regards, because the clients and uh, other than coaching, do you ever offer other products in your business?
How do I know that the client's coming from the podcast?
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
they
or
tell
the
me
yeah, okay,
literally about 3 or 4 times a week, I'll have someone say, "Wow, I've listened to your podcast on this episode. It felt like you were telling my story. Please can you help me?" Or, "I've just been listening to this podcast." So that's how I know. And I also know that when I publish a podcast on a certain topic, I'll people will come with that problem in the next few weeks or month. So
well,
I know it's about the podcast, yeah.
okay. So in quote unquote, or hypothetically speaking, right? In a scenario where you have someone who just um a new client, right? Do you ask them how they first heard about you? If they, sometimes um, the client is proactive to say, "Oh yeah, I listened to your podcast episode," and
Yes,
sometimes
yeah.
they don't. So do you ask them like, "Oh, how did you hear
I
about
do
me?"
if it's overseas. If I'm because I'm in Dubai and I'm quite well known in the Dubai market as a relationship expert and self-esteem and anxiety expert. So if it's in Dubai, then I don't ask. I just presume they found my website through word of mouth or through search engine optimization on my website in Dubai. But anyone that's overseas, I just know. You found me because of my podcast. Occasionally I'll be shocked because they say, "Oh, actually I read this article that
Wow,
back in 2017, when
wow.
people didn't when people used to write articles for other publications, that's what I did
Yeah,
at the
yeah.
beginning of my
Guest
business.
blogging.
No one
Yeah,
does that. No one
guest
does that
posting.
now. Yeah, because everyone would just use
Marketing.
AI.
Yeah,
So, but it's really rare. It's really rare. But yeah, it's really rare because
yeah.
otherwise I just don't think they would find me. I don't really like or enjoy social media. I kind of do it for brand awareness, but it's not my passion to spend hours a day or even half an hour a day on social media. I just don't enjoy it.
Okay,
So,
in the ecosystem of your business, right? Of all the marketing channels, right? Which would you say, the one you enjoy, you double down on, and if it's the same, you also let me know, or if it's different in terms of the one that like, oh, the major result bringer. In this case, I'm assuming that it's podcasting, but if it's otherwise, you can also let me know. So, which
yeah,
do you
so
enjoy?
the only thing that I love and really enjoy is the podcast. That's
Okay.
that's what I really love and enjoy, and that is the main source of income and the main client generator of overseas clients. In the Dubai market, I also have an amazing friend that does my website SEO, search engine optimization, and he does a fantastic job of helping me be visible in the Google searches in the UAE.
Yeah.
So both, I would say, um, have kept me busy, and I'm so grateful for that.
Yeah,
Yeah, I love
I
helping
noticed
people, so
I noticed
yeah.
a pattern, and that is in terms of all the marketing strategies you just mentioned that are working. They're all SEO. It's not necessarily
Mm,
SEO. They're about getting in front of people that are actively searching and seeking for
yeah,
the products you
yeah,
provide and what you offer. And
yeah,
so the convincing is less compared to like, oh yeah, you suffer from trauma. That's why you're doing this, and that's why you're doing this. And like, no, I am suffering from trauma. I need a relationship expert. Like, where do I get one?
mm, yeah,
Right? It's a different conversation entirely.
yeah.
Wow. Wow. Okay.
And
So
how about for
podcasting
you?
work.
Do you like
Um,
video? What do you find useful?
okay, let me just be honest. I love having conversations with people, interviewing people and having this conversation. But the thing I hate is the editing.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that's the
Yeah.
only part. If I could just remove that part and delete it from the equation, wow, I'll be doing
Mm,
in a podcast interview all day long. On
yeah,
social media, I don't even have a brand. I'm not there. Right. But
yeah.
I'm just trying to see, okay, let me just create one so that when people go sneak around, I can control the narrative and
Mm,
what they
mm,
see, right? Rather than leaving it to someone else to just, see what, because people they will go check it and say, oh yeah, this
Yeah.
guy, what's it about, right? So I want to be the one to, like, control the narrative, what they see. I'll be the one to put it out there rather than having someone else just go check them. And so that's what I'm
Yeah.
trying to do social media. But and I don't like always being on the treadmill. I feel like social media is a treadmill, right? Like a podcast now, if I do an episode on a podcast, people can go listen to backlogs, right? People can
Yeah,
find it on
exactly.
search. They can listen to it again and again. On my website,
Exactly.
people can search for it. They can listen. On my YouTube channel, they can search for it and listen. Even 3 years to 4 years, after people can still find it and listen to it. And I just like that. But for social media, after maybe 3 days, it's dead.
Mm.
and and you have to put in new content, and I'm like, wait, but I put my heart and soul into that last piece of content. What about that? And like, no, that's not,
Mm.
it's expired. No, I don't like that, right? Probably because I started with blogging, and so that idea of having SEO bringing traffic has always been in my mind, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's nice. And so when I'm on social media, I'm like, no, 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 no.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's great.
Yeah,
That's
okay.
the great thing about it. Yeah, it's always available.
Yeah. And so the fact that I've actually, because I see a lot of SEO, podcast SEO is not as it's not as popular in terms of how people market it in compared to regular websites SEO. Because you go
Mm.
online and you search for website SEO, you see a ton of articles, a ton of people doing that. But if you search for
Mm.
podcast SEO, people are just talking, right? They don't really know they don't really have data to support what they're saying, right?
Mm.
And so get to see someone who has actually benefited from podcast SEO as a growth lever is really, really nice, because now what that means is like, okay, yeah, I'll double down on it.
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah, I would absolutely crush that platform, because I feel like it's not very competitive compared to the website platform.
Yeah.
Plus, podcasting is hard, so a lot
Yeah.
of persons, they're not just going to do a podcast or like write an article with ChatGPT, create 100 article and put it on the website automation.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Wow. Looking at the podcast now, and what are some projects? Anything you're working on currently? Anything new that's on the pipeline for the podcast?
No, I'm just going to continue the same because I really like doing what I'm doing. So, just continue helping people with betrayal that have been cheated on, or that those kind of topics, couples that are struggling, and then I probably will also focus for a lot on. I keep getting more requests for people who are going through a breakup, needing to heal, mixed emotions, not sure whether to end a
Yeah,
relationship or not.
that's a
'Cause
good one.
it's not a very nice place to be where you're just doubting your relationship. There's part of you that feels
Yeah,
it's not
you,
right, but then part
yeah,
of you still love and care for the person. It can be
you
really
you just
difficult.
there, and you're trying to like say, oh, I need to pick a side, but I'm like, yeah, no, I'm like, yeah, I'm like, yeah.
It's
Wow.
really difficult. And some people take years to make a decision, whereas um, it's painful if if you know it's not right, but you just stay. So yeah, it's a
Yeah,
difficult one.
yeah.
So,
That's why we have people like you to help them navigate
but actually,
such.
in terms of the podcast project, I am actually probably November time. I'm
Okay.
gonna start having guests. That's the plan. I'm gonna
Wow!
start having some guests. Yeah.
Wow!
I'm gonna
Wow!
try it. I'm gonna see. I'm gonna see. And give it a go. So
Okay.
just to hopefully get even more listeners and just to
Okay.
mix it up.
Yeah, I
So,
do. I do have a bold idea for you.
you have what,
Now,
sorry?
I have a bold idea. It's a crazy,
Okay. Okay.
it's a crazy idea, and I just realized as I'm about to share the idea, I just realized that it's a very tricky idea, because most of the things you talk about and you coach people for is sensitive, right? But you could do um a podcast episode where, with the consent of your clients, of course, you tell people and you coach them on, you know, quote unquote, on life, and just Dave Ramsey show, right?
Mm.
But I'm not sure how that will work, because
No,
relationship is
what
a
I
lot.
actually now you've just inspired something that actually I thought about this in the past. And now you've just brought it back up to me
Okay.
with Podpage. Get customers or clients, whatever you want to call
Yeah.
them, listeners. They can leave a 2-minute voicemail message for you. So what I could do
Yeah.
is ask people,
Yeah. And then
leave
you
your
respond to
relationship
it.
questions, and then I
Yeah.
would play their relationship question and
And
answer it.
then
That would be
respond to it.
fantastic
Yeah.
idea.
Yeah. This one of the podcasts
Mm.
I can remember that does this exact same thing is the author Seth Godin.
No, I don't.
Seth Godin. He wrote the book This Is Marketing.
Oh,
He
okay,
has he
no.
has a podcast called Akimbo,
Okay.
Akimbo.
I've heard
And
of
so
that, yeah.
at the end of the after he treats the main topic, right? Let's say it's about the last episode you just did, how to choose marriage, and right. And after the at the end of the episode, about 5 minutes or 10 minutes to the episode, he
Mm.
takes one of those voicemail and then he responds to it,
Wow.
right? And
Okay.
so
Yeah.
yeah, so it could
Yeah.
be
I
maybe a
I I
standalone
think I'm gonna
episode
try that.
or combined
Yeah.
episode. And then another thing you could also do is you could do hotline calls, right? So of course people would know that if they're calling, they'll be on the podcast and then they know
Yeah,
it's on
yeah.
air. So it's not like right, it's clear, right? It's obvious.
Yeah.
And you could also get them to sign in some forms or things,
Mm.
just you want to make sure because relationship is a very is a very
Yeah,
sensitive thing that a lot of
based on
persons
how I feel, I don't think people would wanna do that I work with.
but
Maybe
you
after they've had success, if they're in a good, calm place, but a lot of people that I work with, they're stressed out, they wouldn't probably wanna be recorded, even their voice. So but yeah, like, I think that's a good idea, I'm gonna look into that. I think it'll be
yeah,
really good
I
people
feel
asking
like
their relationship questions.
you could it could be maybe not necessarily a coach, it could be okay, what am I saying, but I know that there's a little way you could rework the idea rather than, oh, let me
Mm,
coach you on, and then you get to say your
mm,
sensitive this. It could be, oh, they get okay, well, now we talked about 2 minutes asking a question, right?
yeah,
Instead of just them recording the 2 minutes, they could actually call in, ask the question, and then you respond, and then
yeah,
you ask, there's this back and forth, right? And it could be maybe 15 minutes, it
yeah.
could be 20 minutes, and that could be an episode.
Mm,
And it doesn't have
yeah.
to be your clients. It could be, oh, you just tell your listeners that, oh yeah, that I love to, if you were interested in that and you would love to ask me a
Yeah,
question,
I'll ask them if
absolutely
they
free,
wanna ask me a question, yeah, be
and then they
fantastic.
can use that. And of course,
Yeah.
it will be free. So it's it's a no-brainer offer, and then they just
Mm,
jump on it and they get to ask
yeah.
questions. Because the reason I did not dismiss the idea is because I've had radio shows where it's about relationship
Mm.
and people calling, and so for me, I'm like, why would they call
Yeah,
in?
yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's certain people it's worth trying, definitely, it's worth
Yeah, yeah.
seeing, yeah. I
Yeah,
mean, it'd be
it's.
great if they
I mean,
did, I would love to have a
you're
live
helping them, and
conversation.
it's not like I've seen people calling for shows where people roast them, right? Okay,
Mm,
I don't know. This is finance, so I don't really know if I could use that example. But is this guy? Its name is called Caleb Hammer, something like that. And what he does is that people come on his show, and he roasts and he audits their finances, and he looks at
yeah,
all their
wow.
stupid finances, financial choices, right? And you see
Mm,
people, oh, why would you spend 150,000 for such things, right? And I'm like, for me, I'm like, why would
mm,
someone go for such a show? But people do, husband and wife, they go, they go, and then they're like, oh yeah, we're trying to buy this. Why are you doing this? And why you this? And what he does is it's brutal. You should probably watch his show. It's
I
brutal.
will.
And for me, I'm like, why would someone sign up for it? And so people do. And those that will, they will. And it will be
Mm,
really beneficial for a lot of persons because it's not just this back and forth. Because I feel like a
yeah.
lot of your listeners, they'll find themselves in those people, right? And so there's this
Yeah, yeah.
connection rather
Thank
than,
you.
you just saying, oh yeah. And yeah, you have an unfair advantage. You have 40,000 persons. And if you ask,
Yeah, I
all you
will.
need is
I'll
just
give it a
one or two,
go.
three persons, and before you
Thank you
know,
so
that's an
much.
episode, right? Yeah.
Thank you.
So
Wisdom
that's what.
wisdom from
Yeah.
wisdom, thank you.
Yeah, I'm glad I could help. Yeah.
Great.
Okay. Yeah. So you mentioned. I'm glad you mentioned that project, and you're working with healing with psychedelics, and that's one you mentioned. You released an episode last month. So for now, what's the frequency like?
Every week for the moment, yeah, and then I will
Okay.
start having guests for that as well, yeah.
Okay. So that's the
So
one you want to have guests for. Okay. Okay. That one is
yeah,
clear. You start
both of
having
them I'm
guests for.
gonna have guests for, both.
Okay.
So there
Okay.
it was always the plan with the psychedelic one because I don't kn I work with 2 medicines myself. I don't work with all the range of different medicines, so I'm not an
Yeah.
expert in
You're
all
an
of those.
expert in all the areas. Yeah.
So definitely for that one, but for the relationships in November, I will, I'll start that project because right now it's just too busy to
Yeah.
do that. So,
Yeah,
which is
yeah.
good. I love being busy. It's a good problem.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. The question I just didn't get around to ask you, and I'm looking at the time now, I
Mm.
just realized that, we're over the time, is have you ever gotten speaking gigs as directly from your podcast?
Yes, definitely. I was on the radio in Dubai Eye, a few days ago, and they heard my podcast. And years ago, before I even had confidence in public speaking at all, there was a big event in Abu Dhabi, which is the capital of the UAE, and they were looking for people, and they found me through listening to my podcast, and they invited me to have a paid speaking position. So I was
Wow.
shocked. I was
You're a
really
thought
shocked,
leader.
and
You're a thought leader.
it was yeah, it was a really good experience and scary because that was the first time I'd stood
Yeah.
on stage and done a big public speaking event, but it
Yeah.
was
Did
really
did you
rewarding.
record that
They
session?
recorded it actually, and I wish I could take it down off YouTube because when I was doing the talk, it was about 6, 7 years ago now. There was a marching band playing, so like I stopped halfway through, and because no one could hear me because there was like this marching band outside because it was like on this big kind of festival, different rooms for speakers. Um, but yeah, no, it's on YouTube.
Wait,
Yeah, it's on
wait,
YouTube.
wait. Apart from the sound and all that, the content of you speaking, everything is intact, right?
Yeah, it was good, but I had to, in the middle of talking to the audience, stop and say, and we had to wait and things
Oh
like that.
yeah, because for me, I was like, oh, I don't know, but maybe you might. For me, I don't, since it was recorded by the organization. I don't know if you have
Mm.
the rights to actually say, oh, I can take this as my own content, because you could actually, I don't know how bad it is because I've not listened to it, but
Yeah, no, I
if
couldn't. Yeah,
you
yeah.
could actually take it and then maybe work on the editing and remove the
Yeah,
sounds
yeah.
and cut all those parts and make everything good, and just have it right. No, it's the
Yeah, I didn't
first,
think of that.
right?
I didn't think
Yeah,
of that. Yeah.
right. Okay. Thank you so much,
Thank you.
Nicola. And yeah, once again, what's the name of the podcast? And you'll be kept mentioning your website, your website. What's the name of the website and how can people connect with you?
Sure. Thank you. So the podcast is Relationship Revival and Healing with Psychedelics, so two different podcasts. My website is nicolabeer.com.
Wow, such a simple website. I feel like it's a really, really, and the beer is BEER. Okay.
It's like the drink.
Uh,
Yeah. Whenever people
yeah,
ask me, you say it
yeah,
like the drink and you
yeah.
spell it like the drink. Yeah. Beer.
Yeah, yeah. See,
Yeah.
it's a huge flex to have your name as your website domain name. It's like, yeah, my name
Yes.
is
Yeah.
nicolabeer.com. Thank you so much,
Thank
Nicola.
you.
It's been an absolute delight chatting with you. I've learned a lot, and I've had so many ideas flowing. I'm like, yeah. I was about taking notes, and then I just remember that. Oh, wait a minute. I'm recording the episode. Yeah. Okay. Thank you
Okay.
so much. I'll
Thank
add the
you.
links mentioned in the description and the show notes, and listeners can just click and go directly to the site.
Brilliant.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so
In
much,
the
Tristan.
future, I'll reach out to you so we can probably maybe 6 months, I don't know, from now, I'll
Fantastic.
reach out to you so we can do a chapter 2 of
Sure.
how it is, how the ideas implemented with the interview
Yeah,
podcast
that
and
would be
all that.
fantastic.
That's it for today's episode of my podcast story. I hope you enjoyed listening to this journey as much as I enjoyed sharing it with you. If you found value in today's episode, make sure to subscribe and leave a review. It really helps others discover the show. And don't forget to join the newsletter at mypodcaststory.com/join for more stories and podcasting insights. Until next time, keep telling your story because someone out there needs to hear it.